Hey guys, it's Wendy here with Wendy's Plans, and today I thought I would do a year in review and just kind of go over everything that I have done, where I've been, what all has transpired over the last year, and just catch everybody up. I am going to do this in two parts. The first part is going to be where I was at each point during the year and things. I'm just going to review a little of the things that I did in each area. And then I've made out a list, guys. And then I am going to um, just catch up with you, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So let's get started. So the year actually started for me back in July of 2023. And that was when I made the decision to retire and that I would do full time traveling starting in February. So I had a lease on an apartment, and I knew that lease would be running out in January. So I knew January 2024, at the last day of the month, my lease would be over. And then I was free to do any kind of traveling that I wanted to do. And so my choice was to not pay, I didn't want to pay storage for all of my furniture and stuff that I was not taking with me. And I knew I couldn't take it all in my little car. So I got rid of everything. So the month of January was spent going through. The first thing I did was I went through and I sorted out everything that I thought I would want or need while I was traveling. And so that didn't take as long as I thought, because I knew I had already gone through my clothes and I had it down to what I wore and what I didn't wear. And the biggest thing that was to get rid of all of my work clothes. So I knew there was no reason for me to have work clothes. I kept one pair of pants that were a dressier pant in case I needed them, and a one dress shirt. And I did come to realize that I needed more than that on the trip, but we'll get to that. Um, and then I would took yoga pants, leggings, t-shirts, that kind of thing, guys. I was at the point I was like, Wendy, you're not working. You don't need all of those dress clothes. So I got rid of everything. So I'd already gone through my clothes, and then so that was the bulk of what I knew I was going to take with me. And then I felt like I needed to take comfort things, and I picked out two twin size quilts that I had. One was on Christopher's twin bed when he was growing up, and the other one was from my mother-in-law that when she went into a nursing facility, she opted for a twin bed. And so we got her a quilt to go on her twin bed. And then after she passed, I couldn't bring myself to get rid of it. And I use those as like a throw. They're the perfect size. If you want to lay down on the bed and take a nap, you can just pull it over you, and it's like the perfect weight. It's just perfect. And then I try to keep one on the bed, and then I keep one in the living area wherever I go, because I like to sometimes at night I'll sit up and especially now in this Airbnb, I find I'm doing it a lot more. It depends on the layout. We'll get to that in the second video. This is part two. But I like to have one to pull over me when I am just sitting. I don't watch TV, but I do watch YouTube, and I like to read. I like to listen to my Audible while I play my games. I'm always listening to Audible, guys. They need to sponsor me because I'm always listening to Audible. But anyway, I absolutely love these two quilts, and I am glad I kept those out. So those kind of things, just the comfort measures. And then I knew I wanted to be able to carry my coffee set up with me, because I wasn't really sure, going to Airbnbs, what I was going to have, and I didn't want to have to carry um, Keurig pods. I didn't want to have to carry auto drip like a Mr. Coffee setup and Nespresso, and I mean, I have hit it all, guys. And so I knew I wanted something that was simple, easy, what I'd been using, which was my AeroPress. And I absolutely love my AeroPress. It's kind of like a French press without the mess. And so I knew I was going to be taking that and my coffee. And then it turned into, well, you might need this, you might need that. You don't know what's going to be in the kitchens. And I took a lot of stuff that I really didn't need. And while I'm currently in this location, that's going to change. I'm going to go through a lot of that stuff and get rid of it, because most of the time I can make do with what's in the Airbnb. So lessons learned. But then I knew I needed to take my stationery stuff with me for my planning videos, and I knew I needed to take my camera stuff. Now, the other thing was, I knew I had to take stuff for winter or cooler weather, and I needed to take summer weather clothes. And I started in the time of the year that I still needed a few, because I knew where I was going, and I was going to need a few cooler weather items. And then I knew in my next location I would be gone for 3 months, and I knew I was going from cooler down to warmer weather. So I knew I had to carry both types of clothes with me. So that meant I had to pack all of my clothes. I didn't have the option of leaving half my clothes in one area and taking half my clothes, which was fine, because I have figured out what I really truly need and what I don't. Lessons learned. So I ended up pulling everything that I knew I needed. I put it in one location, and I was like, this gets packed to go with me. Everything else I need, and I went through all my stationery stuff. That was hard. I've gone through it a couple of times since, and I'm going to be very brutal this time. And if I have not used it, I'm getting rid of it, because there's no sense in me, number one, packing it and unpacking it out of my car, setting it, bringing it in. Like this time I'm on the third floor, and it's a lot harder on me to carry all of that upstairs by myself. So after I pulled everything out that I knew I was going to carry, it made it a little easier, because at that point I started going through things and saying, this can be donated, this can be just thrown away, because guys, I'd had stuff for years and years and years. And then I saw my neighbor downstairs, and it just hit me. And I asked her, I said, can your church, or do you know anybody that needs furniture and complete household? And she was like, why? And I was telling her, she knew I was going to start traveling. I mean, we were friends. It wasn't like I just randomly picked a neighbor. But we were friends, Lynn and Deborah, and my good friend Renee. I talk about her all the time. We are all four really good friends. And I said, I just know you're very active in your church, and you would know if there's somebody that needs things. And I said, I don't want to put things up for sale and have somebody coming to my home in and out that I don't know. And she kind of laughed, and I said, Deborah, I did not mean Deborah. I meant Brenda. Oh, my brain is gone. She said it's odd because Brenda has just finished getting her mom's house redone. It's their home place, and she needs to put furniture in it. I said, please tell her to come up and look at what I have. If she wants it, she can have it. If she doesn't, that's okay. And it took Brenda a little bit. She doesn't like, she always feels like there's somebody that's in more need than she is. And so she came up and she's like, oh, so, well, I probably could take a little bit of stuff. And I said, okay, tell me what you want. And she's like, well, what about this table? And I was like, it's yours. And she's like, really? She was so sweet, guys. I just love her and Lynn. And anyway, by the time it was said and done, I was like, why don't you take everything? And then whatever you can't use in the house, you can give it to your kids. You can donate it to the church. You can do whatever you want to do with it. So bottom line was I packed up my entire apartment, and her daughter came and moved everything. So I didn't have to deal with movers. I didn't have to deal with storage issues. I didn't have to deal with people coming into my apartment that I didn't know. Yes, I probably could have made some money. At that point, I would rather have given it to them than to deal with strangers coming into my house, because I would be there during the day by myself. My neighbors worked, and Christopher and Emma worked. There was nobody to be there with me. Now, yes, Emma works from home, but she couldn't be there with me 100% of the time. And you never knew when they were going to say, oh, I can come at whatever time. So this worked out really well for me because everything was gone and I didn't have to deal with anything. Um, so that was my January, was prepping to go on the road. In February, I the first day, well, actually last day of January, I actually came on down to Myrtle Beach, and I had a condo there that I had rented in November. I had paid my deposit in the first month for the cost for the first month and second month. So I was ready to start my adventures. So the first week was truly me getting settled into the condo. Keep in mind, a couple weeks into January, or a week into January, I had issues with my back and my hip, and I was in so much pain. So I had to pack in stages. I would pack, and then I would have to get off my feet, and then I would pack and then get off my feet. And so that was very stressful for me because I was like, here I am starting on my adventure, and I'm having hip issues again, and it was just a lot of concern for me. But getting to Myrtle Beach, and then I had a little over a week to kind of take it easy, get my medicine in me, and I started to get better. And my friend Jan came down from Canada. We did so much stuff. We did. And then Christopher and Emma came down for a weekend, and my sister-in-law came down for, I don't know, it was about 4 nights, I guess. So I did have people coming down here. I was going back and forth checking on my mom. I got my mom moved. I had to go back and forth to home to do her taxes, my tax. It was a lot, and I'm glad I took those 2 months to do that. Some of the things that we did over the 2 months, because I was here February and March, and so in that time, I did Planmas for the month of February. No, I did everywhere. I did everywhere, which was every day in February. And I posted a video, and then me and Jan did a lot of things. We went to the art museum, and then we stopped by the boardwalk and walked on the ocean front. We went to Alabama Theater for a show. We did the House of Blues for breakfast, which was their gospel show. I don't remember what it's called, but it was really good. And we did the aquarium. We walked around Broadway at the beach and Barefoot Landing. We did a lot. And then, we went to the Amish store. That's when we found the Cafe de Paris. I know I'm saying that wrong. And we also went to the outlet mall. And then when my sister-in-law came in, we pretty much did a lot of the same things, with the exception that we went to the exception was we went to Carolina Opry and saw Clint Black. That was a really good concert. Um I just stayed busy the whole time. There was so many things that I did, like the art museum. I probably went 3 or 4 times to the art museum, and it was so much fun, guys. It was so much fun. um and they would have different exhibits, which is the reason I went different times. Then we're going to move into April, and in April I packed up everything the last couple of days of February, got it in my car. The last day of March I went, which was Easter, and it was Sunday before the end of the month. It was either 30th or 31st. I went to my family's for our Easter dinner, and then after the dinner was left, I drove as far as Asheville, North Carolina, and then spent the night kind of the next morning and drove to, I think, Paducah, Kentucky. I broke the trip up into no more than 6 hours at a time driving. And then from Paducah, Kentucky, I drove into Kansas City. And guys, that is that is when I thought my trip was going to end, because it was kind of the feels, guys. It was the emotions. It was a lot of stuff was hitting me at one time. It's when I realized that there were a lot of bridges away from my area of the country, and things that I just hadn't thought about. However, while I was there, I did get to do a lot of things, and I'm so grateful that I got to do these things and I saw the things that I did. There, I had a basement studio apartment. So it was the first one that I had that was on the ground. The Myrtle Beach one was up, it was parking on the ground floor, and then the first floor was actually the second floor. Because I don't know in every area of the country. I know East Coast, their housing is built on pylons at the beach, and so the houses are lifted, and so you park underneath, and then the houses start here. So it's like a carport underneath, and then the housing. So it was the second floor, really. So I did have to go up steps. You can see a trend. But once I got unpacked and got groceries and started driving around the city, I will tell you, I struggled with driving in that city. Nothing made sense to me. It was weird. I don't know how to explain it. And this is my take on any of the cities that I went to. I can't recommend or not recommending them, because everybody's going to have a different reaction when they get to where they're at. But while I was there, I did go to the pen shop at Crown Center Mall, and I did buy a new pen, a new fountain pen, a Sailor pen. And then I did the World War One Museum, the Federal Reserve Museum, the Art Museum. I did a city tour. I toured the train station. I drove to Wichita, Kansas for the meetup with Mandy Lynn Plans. Um, I went to Mayday Paper and Post, a bookstore. I kind of ate out. The first part of my stay, I ate out a lot. And then I realized that I couldn't do that all the time. It's just so expensive, guys. So I kind of cut back at that point. In May, I went to, it was Meridian, Mississippi, is where I stayed. I spent most of my time in Laurel, Mississippi. There, I had a loft in a downtown area. It was an architect's office underneath me, which had been a store, a downtown store, but they had taken it over and their offices were in there. And so I was over their office, which was really good for filming because it was very quiet. Um, but it was a lot of steps. It was a lot of steps. And they were all in one run. It was one floor up, but in actuality, it probably should have been like a third floor. It's just that the ceiling height on the ground floor was so high, being a store, and then I was up above it. So it was like 1.5 to 2 floors up. Anyway, it was a lot of steps, and I had to unload all that and get it into that condo by myself. That was a lot of fun. Um, I drove at least once a week down to Laurel. It was not that far. 45 minutes to an hour. It wasn't long. I've driven longer for other places that I've been to in other states. But I enjoyed it so much. I did a walking tour by myself. I just walked around the Laurel the first time I went. Second time I went, I did the pink golf cart tour. And what else did I don't remember on what trips everything, but I did do the Lauren Rogers Art Museum. I went to the Scotsman, did the Scent Library, Laurel Mercantile, Office Products Center, and gosh, there was so many antique stores and so many just shops, guys. There was just a lot of shops, and I just broke them down and did that. I did stop by at some of the restaurants that have been on the show. I did eat at several. I stopped by a couple of coffee shops. It was just a good time. Everybody there was so nice and so sweet. Then in June, I landed in Macon, Georgia, and I spent one full weekend in Atlanta with Chris and Emma, and then but the majority of my time was in Macon. Now that was probably one of my favorite um, Airbnbs. It was in an older Victorian house that had been redone. There were two Airbnb units on the bottom and somebody that lived full time on the top. Um, I loved it. Now, I did have to go up like 5 steps. It was just a porch situation. So that was not bad. So I counted that as ground floor. I loved that Airbnb. It's just the way it was laid out was very conducive. I was very comfortable there. Really enjoyed that Airbnb a lot. Um, so I toured downtown Macon. The Airbnb I was in was just a couple of blocks from the Allman Brothers Museum at the Big House. It's a long name for their museum, but I did that. I did take a weekend. We went to the Atlanta Zoo. We went to the Botanical Gardens, to the aquarium. Christopher and Emma did World of Coke. And then I drove. Oh, Brash Coffee was there. I don't remember what else we did. We did a lot in Atlanta. And then I came back to Macon. They went home. I There's a little village near where I was at called Ingleside Village, and they had a lot of shops there. I did those. Um, oh, in Atlanta, we were in the West Side Preventions District. We did things there. I toured a place called Rabbit Hole. They have they have a little bit of everything, and it's so cool. I really like that store. I found a coffee shop, Cathedral Coffee. I went to one of the peach farms and watched them pack peaches, and I did buy some peaches and bring them home with me. And I did stop on my way out of Atlanta and bought a bushel of peaches. I don't know. It was big box of peaches. I think it was a half bushel or a bushel. I don't know. Of peaches to take to my aunt and to Christopher and Emma. So June was a lot of fun. July, I drove back to Wilmington. I was at home for 2 weeks with Christopher and Emma. And I say that tongue in cheek because I stayed with them a couple of days and I went up. No, I originally went to my Aunt Margie's and I stayed with her for 2 nights. I took her to visit my mom. We just hung out. And then I drove to Christopher and Emma's, and I stayed probably about a week between the weekend and being there a few days the next week. And then I drove up to Burlington to my sister-in-law's, and I stayed with her Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. Sunday, I got up, I packed, and I drove to Higginsport, Ohio. There's nothing in Higginsport, Ohio. I just did day trips to wherever I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. But the pull for me was that it was on the Ohio River and I could see the river. So that was why I picked that location. It was a small apartment. It was on the ground floor. Um, that was very nice. So at this point, I've had 3 on the ground floor. So I'm trying to remember if I wrote down everything, but I need to figure out in what order. So I did Miller's Furniture and Shops. It's an Amish village, and they had furniture. They had a bakery. They had like a grocery store where you could buy in bulk. They just had a lot of little shops, and it was Amish run and Amish made products, and that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. That was a whole day outing. I did Mansfield, Ohio. I went to see the Shawshank Redemption filming area. It was the prison that they filmed in, and then all the outlying areas that they filmed in. That was so interesting, and I had so much fun doing that. I took the ferry across the Ohio River to Augusta, Kentucky for my birthday, and I met some people there, and her name is Deborah, or Debbie. I think she went by Debbie, and she has the same birthday as me. We were in the same restaurant, um, Honeybee, and we just happened to meet, and we were both celebrating our birthday. So it was really nice. I got a picture of me and her together. So I did that. That was a lot of fun, taking the ferry over, spending the day in Augusta and going around to their shops. They had a lot of antique stores. They just had a lot of shops. That was really nice. I went into Ripley. In Ripley, they had a lot of things to do. There was a lot of museums. One of the coffee shops that I liked was Barn Chick Coffee. I'll get it together here in a minute. But I really like them. I got a map there that showed the covered bridges in that area. And so I spent one whole day going around to the covered bridges. Um, I went to the Ulysses Grant home place where he went to school. That whole town was dedicated to everything President Grant. What else did I do? There's so many things that I did, guys. I just whatever I got up and thought that would be fun to do, that's what I did at that time. Then at the end, it wasn't even the end of the month because I left and went up to my sister's house. That was probably the middle of August. And then I went up for 3 weeks to my sister's house in Michigan. And in Michigan, we went to Ann Arbor. And at the time, I didn't know it, but the magical planner who I did a collab with, and I'll leave that video up here somewhere for you guys. But she is from Ann Arbor, and I would have loved to have known that she was there, because I would definitely have tried to meet up with her and have coffee or something. But anyway, we went to Ann Arbor. We saw the giant carrots, which are it's in Ann Arbor, but it's where they have it's like a food bank, and I think it's called Nourish. I'm not sure the name of it. But that was so much fun. We went to Traverse City. We saw the giant cherry pie pan, which was just the highlight of my trip. I'm just going to tell you. Well, one of the highlights. Then we went to a lighthouse, and it was on one of the lakes. We went to a lavender farm. We went into Grayling, did shops there. We stayed in Mansalona Ski Lodge, which was on the second floor. My sister's apartment was on the second floor. The ski lodge was on the second floor. We went to Post. It was in Detroit, Michigan. There was a giant cow head on a building I wanted to see. Guys, this was from my book, Atlas Obscura. All the crazy things to see. We went to Frankenmuth, which is a small German village town, and had great food. There was a lot of shops, a lot of walking, a huge Christmas shop. When we were in Mansalona, we drove into Frederick, and we ate several times there because that was a close place for restaurants. And they had a bakery there called coffee shop and bakery called A Better Place Bakery and Coffee. Really good coffee. Back near my sister's, we did Big B Coffee. And my niece is in the marching band, so we watched her in a parade, and then her halftime show at a football game. So we did a lot in the 3 weeks that I was there. And yeah, it was just about 3 weeks. It was just a couple of days short. Then in September, I landed in Dothan, Alabama. So I took 2 days to drive it. I drove a lot of hours the first day. It was about 10 or 12 hours, which I don't like to do. But I knew I wanted to stay one extra night to spend with my niece, and then I got up and drove the next day. And I knew it was going to be a long day, and that was my call to do. I'm not going to do that again. And then I made it to Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was just a long drive because I didn't want to go through Cincinnati because, guys, they have a double-decker bridge, and I'm terrified of heights, and I knew I could not do that bridge. So I ended up going around my elbow to get back to my thumb, but I made it to Charlotte, spend the night, place my Hobonichi order, and so that was the 3rd. So the night of the 3rd is when I landed in Charlotte. And No, it was September 1st because everything went live on the 1st. So it was the 1st. So the 2nd, I was at, ended up in Dothan, Alabama. And I'm going to tell you what, guys, I was just tired. And at that point, I didn't do a whole lot. um, I stayed in a carriage house. This was probably my very favorite. So my favorite was Dothan, Alabama. My second favorite was Macon, Georgia. My third was Kansas City. It was in the basement, and I just like the setup of that one. Um, but I cut myself short in Dothan because Hurricane Helene was coming through, and it was a big storm, and I didn't want to try um, staying in an area I was not familiar with, how bad it flooded, how, all of that. And there were huge trees around this carriage house, and I just didn't want to take the chance. So I packed up early and headed to Christopher and Emma's. And when I say I packed up early, at 5 o'clock was when the announcement came out that it was a full hurricane and it was going to be a category 4. It went from a tropical storm to hurricane into a trop. It was really quick. I had cousins calling me. I had my friends calling me. I had family calling me saying, you need to get out. My sister called, Christopher and Emma. So I packed everything up on Wednesday night, and Thursday morning it had already started raining, but I knew during the night was not. The carriage house was, there was a garage underneath and the carriage house on top. I didn't want to go down those stairs back and forth, back and forth. It had already started raining, so I knew they would be wet and in the dark. So I opted to get everything packed. Thursday morning, I got up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I started packing my car. I left there and drove all the way through. I was going to stay in Augusta, Georgia. When I got there, there was already water in the ditches up to the road, and I knew it was going to continue raining, that the flood would get worse. So I just kept coming on home. So I drove all the way to Christopher and Emma's house, which was a long drive. That was a long day for me. And part of the longness was due to the rain and being careful, but it was about a 12-hour drive for me for that day. But while I was in Dothan, I went to Mural City Coffee, it was coffee and a wine bar, I think. But it was very nice. I could spend the whole day there working on videos and stuff. I could get them edited and uploaded and all of that. It was such a nice place. My Hubman order came in. I rented studio space. First time I've ever done that, where I could we were constantly having issues with the internet. The owners of the Airbnb were really trying to get it fixed, but it was like hit or miss. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. So I finally decided I needed to get some stuff edited and uploaded. I had it edited, I just need to get it uploaded. So I booked office space, and I spent 8 hours on a Saturday in an office space. It was $25. I felt that was very reasonable. And so I did that. And then after that is when I found Mural City Coffee, and that the internet was perfect and I could get things uploaded. So that's where I would go afterward. I walked around downtown, which is known for their murals. I looked for all the murals. I found them. They're the peanut capital of the United States. And so their little thing that they do is they have all these peanuts, and you buy them and you paint them to match your business or whatever you want to do. And so I spent a few days going around town trying to find the peanuts. And there were some really cute ones. There were some really weird ones. There were some really pretty ones too. And I enjoyed doing that. They had a place called Mollywood, which was interesting. It had a lot of different furnitures furniture pieces. It was just eclectic stuff, but major part of it was furniture. And I kept saying, oh, if I had a house, I would buy this. If I had, but it was really nice. Um, I went to the botanical gardens. I did other stuff, but I don't remember what all that was. But I did have to leave early. And then I got back to Wilmington. That put me back almost a week early. So I had 3 weeks between Christopher and Emma. I went up to my sister-in-law Lisa and her husband Philip's house for a long weekend. I went up to my cousin Lisa and her husband Chuck's house and had a couple of nights. So I tried to, and I visited my mom in July and when I was there before I went to Italy. And then the end of October, I went to Italy. Guys, that was such a good trip. I enjoyed that trip so much. We were in Rome. We walked around the city for 2 days. We had 2 days there ahead of the tour. We ended up doing a food tour. We did a cooking class. That both of those were amazing. We walked around all over Rome. We did shopping. We just did a lot. And then during the tour, we did the Colosseum and the Vatican. We did some shopping, a little bit of shopping before we joined the tour, but I didn't want to buy a whole lot of stuff. And I regret not buying stuff because we were very limited on the tour when we could shop and do that kind of stuff. Um, the first night of the tour, we met at 5 o'clock and we had a dinner together. The next day, we did all of our sightseeing. So we had 2 nights in that hotel. And then the third day, we left going to Florence. And on our way to Florence, we stopped. I don't remember the name of the abbey, but we stopped at a monastery abbey. I'm not sure what it was called. And it was really nice. We got to tour the church, or the cathedral, and then there were a lot of shops and things there. So we did that, and then we drove on to Florence. I'm going to tell you, we had so much fun in Florence. When we got to Florence, we had a traditional Tuscan dinner. We had Florentine steak. You get pasta at every meal in Rome, guys. I'm just saying. There were 2 types of pasta. We had antipasta to begin with. We had dessert. I mean, it was just a lot of food, guys. A lot of food. And there's a wine at every dinner. They bring out water, which was a good thing because I needed the water. So the next morning we got up, we did a city tour. We toured a little bit when we got there. We didn't have a lot of time in Florence that first day. The second day, we did the city tour. We went to the art museum. And then we went to a leather shop that was recommended by the tour group. And after that, we had lunch and we had a soup, and it was called farro, Farro. And it is a grain that is grown there locally in Florence. And it's a combination of that. It's not a pea. I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of beanish. I don't know, guys. And then they had pasta mixed in with it, and it was so good. It was so good. And fresh bread that they had just made. And that was a really good meal to be so simple. After the lunch, we had free time, and we were dinner on our own. And that gave us a chance to see some of the other stuff we wanted to see in Venice. We went to it was a bridge. Very famous bridge. And I don't remember what it was called. but this bridge has shops and stuff on it. We went there, we saw that. We toured a couple more museums. We went to different shops, and then we found the Visconti flagship shop. And guys, that was the highlight. That was the highlight of my trip. I'm telling you, I absolutely love the Visconti store. If you ever get to Italy and to Florence, you have to go, guys. If you're into fountain pens and inks, it is just an amazing experience. Shout out to Annalisa. She was wonderful. She just made the experience for me. I'm just going to tell you, it was such a great shop. We went to a leather shop. Um, that was Halloween day, and so we saw the tradition there, which is the kids and their family get dressed up, but they go trick-or-treating at the shops, not at houses. So that was a good concept, I think, because the stores would have candy there and you're not knocking on somebody's door. So kind of like our trunk or treat in the South. I don't know if it's everywhere, but anyway, it was really nice. And then that night was one of the best meals I had ever had. We asked the hotel for a recommendation, and we walked to that restaurant, and there was another group of people from our tour that were there too, so they must have asked the same question. But I just got a roasted chicken and roasted potatoes. Me and Jan both got the same thing. And then I don't remember what Daphne got, but she got a salad and something, but I don't remember what it, I want to say she might have got lamb. I'm not sure, guys. But all three of us was like, this is the best food. Me and Jan took a bite of our chicken and a bite of our potatoes, and we looked at each other and was like, this is the best food. I don't know if we were just hungry, if we were just tired, but it was really good. It was really good food. And then the next morning we got up, we drove and saw the Leaning Tower of Pisa. We spent a few hours there, not a few hours, we maybe 2 hours there. I'm going to say it wasn't like something I wanted to like on my bucket list to see, but it was very interesting. I'm glad we did it. I was surprised at you just see things all the time. You know, people taking pictures and they've got their hands up and they're holding the, and you're just like, oh, that's kind of kitschy, but it was really nice to see it in person. It was amazing. Everything, all the, you know, one of the things that I noticed in Rome the first few days we were walking around, we stopped at a corner trying to get our bearings, and we were looking down the streets, and we did a double take, me and Jan, and we were like, not Jan, Daphne, and we were like, that's the Colosseum. And so, I mean, you just look down this road and there's the huge Colosseum. I mean, it's just, it was just shocking because it's so different than the States. And so I felt the same way with the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It was very interesting. And then we drove, it was a good 4 hours. No, our dinner was 4 hours. It was a good couple of hours drive from there to Venice. And we stopped at, it's kind of like a rest stop. I don't know how to describe it. It has a gas station. Yeah, kind of. And then you go in, they have like the rest stop where you have bathrooms and that kind of thing. And then they have kind of like a gas station where you go in, you can get drinks, chips, you know, that kind of stuff. And then you go upstairs and they have a full blown food court. They had like sandwiches, they had hot food, like a cafeteria style. They had, gosh, I don't know. We got the hot food and we had lasagna, and gosh, it was so good. I tell people I had lasagna from the gas station. It was really good, and it really truly was good. So we did that. So we spent about an hour there. Then we got back on the bus and headed into Venice. when we got to Venice, we lost our bus driver. He took the bus to his next trip, and we all got off the boat and we were loaded into water taxis and taken to our hotel. And then everything else we did, we had to board and unboard a water taxi. That was a lot of fun. But the first night we had another traditional Venice dinner, and that was about 3.5, 4 hours. And then we walked around some of the squares there in Venice and saw a little bit. It was really interesting to see it at night, and we had such a great time. It was my first sighting of the gondolas, and it was amazing, guys. The gondolas take you through the smaller parts of the canals, and the water taxis take you through the main canals. I think it's called Central Canal or Canal. I don't know. But that one is a little bit bigger. I don't remember seeing any gondolas on that one. They may go out on that part, but most of the gondolas was in the little other canals, smaller canals. So we saw some gondolas, and then we ate, and then we took the water taxi back. And it was very interesting to see it at night and seeing everything lit up. And the next day we went to a museum. We did a city walking tour. We just did a lot. And then that took us to a little bit around lunchtime, maybe 12, 1 o'clock. And then we had that afternoon about 3 or 4 hours on our own. And so we sat down and had coffee. We needed coffee. And by this time, we were so tired, guys. This is a week. We're at the end of 8 days, 9 days. We were just so tired. And so we got coffee, and then we went and had lunch, and that was so good. We each got pasta, but it was really good. We ate a lot of pasta. But it was really good. And then we did go into some of the shops, and that was really fun to get to see some of the shops there. It was really hard. It was really crowded. And it was hard to navigate because you're on the shops and the buildings and everything is built around the canals. And so it's not like you have roads that you can, go 3 corners and go whatever. It wasn't like that. So you were constantly trying to figure your way back out to the main areas. But we ended up going into a couple museums too. And so we really enjoyed that. And then that night we had our farewell dinner. We had a chance to say goodbye to everybody we met on the tour. This tour probably had 24, 25 people total. So it wasn't a very huge tour. It was a smaller group. And so everybody kind of knew everybody by the time we were done. So we enjoyed that so much. Then I had a 23-hour travel day to get home. So I left the hotel in Venice at 3:15 in the morning. We took a water taxi to a location where we could get a van to taxi to take us, or a shuttle to take us to the airport. And then we took off at 6 or 7, 6:30, 7 o'clock. I don't remember. We flew to London. We had a couple hours layover there, and then we flew from London to Charlotte. That was 6 or 8 hour flight. And then we had a couple hours layover in Charlotte, and then I got home at 9 o'clock that night. Now, the reason it was 23 hours is because it was a 6-hour time difference from when I left Venice to the United States. It was a 6-hour time difference. So when I got up at 3, that was like getting up at 10 o'clock at night. 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. Yeah, 9 or 10 o'clock at night, United States time. And I didn't get home till 9 United States time. So I was so tired, guys. And then I immediately crashed. Christopher stopped and let me get something to eat. And he picked me up at the airport. And then I just crashed. The next morning, I got up. I threw the remainder of my stuff that was at their apartment into my car. And I came to Myrtle Beach. And that's where I'm going to be through the end of February. I originally had booked a condo to be there, which was the original condo I was in when I first started my my travel. So I had come full circle. I was back to that condo. I was there about 3 weeks, and the family that owned it contacted the management company that I used and said they had a family emergency and their relative, I don't know if they sold their house. I don't know what happened to their house, but I think they sold it. And they had not gotten into their new house and they needed a place for at least a month, maybe two. So they asked if I would possibly relocate to a different condo. And so the people that managed it contacted me and gave me two options that I could go to. And I picked one that I can see the ocean. So I'm in a different location than I was originally, and I am enjoying it here. It took me a little bit to settle in and get adjusted to it, but I'm really enjoying it and I'm having such a great time. And this was supposed to run through January, but February was available and she gave me the option of having February, and I took her up on it because then it gives me enough time to make sure my taxes are done. I can visit my mom more, and it's just going to make it easier for me to pack up and leave March 1st. So I will be here till the end of February and I will leave March 1st. So I'm excited about that. Now, part 2 is going to tell you the good, the bad, the ugly, what I learned, all of that kind of stuff. Things I liked, things I didn't like, things, what my favorite locations were, all of that. I'm going to go into that. But guys, this is almost an hour right now, and I am going to do a part 2. So if you enjoyed this video, let me see what kind of things I did in here. I took a car. So leave me down below either a car, a boat, a bus. I think that's all. Give me one of those down below. And until next time, guys, bye-bye.